Taemin Kim pressed his face against the viewing window of the transport shuttle and watched the Galactic Academy station grow larger. The massive structure floated in space like a silver wheel, its lights twinkling against the darkness. After 3 months of travel from Earth, he was finally here. "Stop drooling on the glass," Jiho Park said from the seat next to him. His roommate and fellow human student was trying to look calm, but Taemin could see his hands gripping the armrest tightly. "I'm not drooling. I'm observing," Taemin replied with a grin. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. Around them, students from different alien species gathered their belongings. Taemin recognized a few from the orientation videos. There was a tall, blue-skinned Etherian with 4 arms, a small furry creature that looked like a floating ball of orange fluff, 2 reptilian beings with scales that changed colors as they moved. None of them looked at the 2 humans. Taemin had expected this. Earth had only joined the galactic community 2 years ago. Humans were the new kids, and everyone was still figuring out what to make of them. The rumors didn't help. Apparently, the rest of the galaxy thought Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that only crazy species could evolve there. "Let's go," Jiho said, pulling Taemin toward the exit. "We're already getting stared at." The inside of the station was incredible. The corridors were wide and tall, with walls that glowed softly with their own light. Alien students walked, floated, and in one case slithered past them. Signs in dozens of languages pointed toward different sections: dormitories, lecture halls, dining areas, recreation zones. Taemin and Jiho found their shared quarters on level 7. The room was simple but comfortable, with 2 sleeping pods, a study area, and a bathroom that had settings for 17 different species. Taemin immediately tried to figure out which setting was for humans. "Don't break the toilet on our first day," Jiho warned. The next morning, they attended their first class, Advanced Xenobiology with Professor Veltis. The classroom was a curved amphitheater with seats designed for different body types. Taemin and Jiho took seats in the middle section, which had normal chairs. Professor Veltis arrived exactly on time. She was an insectoid alien, about 7 feet tall with a dark green exoskeleton that gleamed under the lights. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she set up her teaching equipment. Her large compound eyes swept across the classroom, pausing briefly on the 2 humans. "Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology," Professor Veltis said. Her voice came through a translator device that made her clicking sounds into clear words. "This course will teach you about dangerous life forms from across the galaxy. You will learn to identify threats, understand their biology, and apply proper safety protocols." Taemin leaned forward with interest. This was exactly why he had applied to the academy. Earth's biology was fascinating, but alien life, that was a whole new level. "Some of you may find this course challenging," Professor Veltis continued. "We will be working with live specimens, dangerous specimens. If you are not prepared to follow strict safety guidelines, leave now." Nobody moved. "Good." Professor Veltis's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. "Let me introduce the other members of our class." There were 12 students in total. 2 Etherians who sat together in the back, a crystalline being whose name Taemin couldn't pronounce, 3 small creatures who shared one desk and seemed to communicate without speaking, a being made of what looked like living liquid in a containment suit, and others whose species Taemin didn't recognize. And then there were the 2 humans. Taemin noticed how the other students kept glancing at them. Not friendly looks, more like nervous ones, like they weren't sure if humans were safe to be around. During the break, Taemin tried to introduce himself to the Etherians. They gave polite but short responses before moving away. The crystalline being simply turned its back. Only the liquid creature seemed curious, asking Taemin a few questions about Earth's gravity and atmosphere. "They think we're weird," Jiho muttered as they returned to their seats. "We are weird," Taemin said. "To them anyway." Professor Veltis began the main lecture, showing images of dangerous planets and the life that evolved there. Taemin took notes on his datapad, fascinated by the variety. There were worlds with acid rain where creatures had metal-based biology, frozen planets where life existed inside ice crystals, even a planet where the plants were predators, and the animals had to constantly move to survive. "Earth is classified as a Class 6 hazard world," Professor Veltis said, and an image of Earth appeared on the screen. High gravity, aggressive microbial life, extreme weather variations, and numerous toxic or venomous species. Humans evolved under remarkably hostile conditions. Several students turned to look at Taemin and Jiho. Taman smiled and waved. They quickly looked away. Which brings me to our first practical lesson, Professor Veltis announced. Next class, we will be working with live specimens. I will bring organisms from different hazard worlds. You will observe them, learn their characteristics, and practice proper handling techniques. Excitement buzzed through the classroom. Even the nervous students seemed interested. Prepare yourselves mentally, Professor Veltis added. Some of these creatures are lethal to most species in this room. We will have full safety equipment and medical teams on standby. But you must understand, this is not a game. These are real dangers that you may encounter in your future careers. After class, Taman and Jiho walked to the dining hall. The academy had food options for every species, including a small Earth cuisine section that served basic human meals. Taman got something that was supposed to be a hamburger but didn't quite taste right. Are you excited about next class? Taman asked. Jiho shrugged. I guess. Depends on what she brings. I hope it's something really interesting, like those acid-spitting creatures she mentioned. You're weird, you know that? Taman laughed. That's what makes life fun. That evening, Taman received a message from Nari Cho, the Human Cultural Liaison Officer assigned to the academy. She wanted to meet with all human students to check how they were adjusting. Nari was a professional woman in her late 20s, who always looked slightly worried. She met Taman and Jiho in a small office near the administration section. How are you both doing? She asked. Any problems? Anyone giving you trouble? We're fine, Jiho said. Just the usual staring. They'll get used to you, Nari assured them. Remember, you're representing all of humanity here. Be respectful. Follow all rules. And please don't do anything that will make humans look bad. We'll be good, Taman promised. Nari looked at him with narrowed eyes. Why do I not believe you? Because you've read my file and know I once tried to eat a ghost pepper on a dare? That's exactly why, Nari sighed. Just be careful, especially in Professor Veltis's class. I've heard she brings out some truly dangerous specimens. Taman nodded, but inside he was even more excited. Dangerous specimens meant interesting biology, and interesting biology was why he was here. As they left Nari's office, Jiho elbowed him. She's right, you know. You need to be more careful. I'm always careful, Taman said. You're never careful, Taman grinned. Well, then I'm consistently myself. That's a kind of careful. Jiho just shook his head, but he was smiling too. The next class couldn't come soon enough. The classroom felt different when Taman entered for the next xenobiology lesson. Medical equipment lined one wall. Safety barriers had been installed around the demonstration area. 3 staff members in protective suits stood near the professor's desk, and a medical team waited in the corner. Professor Veltis stood at the center of it all, her compound eyes watching each student enter. On her desk sat a large containment unit covered with a dark cloth. Everyone, take your seats quickly, Professor Veltis said. Today's lesson requires your complete attention and absolute obedience to safety protocols. Taman sat down, his eyes fixed on the covered container. Next to him, Jiho was chewing his lip nervously. The other students looked equally tense. Even the normally confident Etherian seemed uneasy. Before we begin, Professor Veltis continued, I need verbal confirmation from each of you that you understand the risks. These creatures are extremely dangerous. There is no shame in leaving if you feel unprepared. One by one, students confirmed they would stay. When it was Taman's turn, he said clearly, I understand and accept the risks. Professor Veltis nodded. Very well. Let me introduce you to the Skorath stingers. She pulled away the cloth. Inside the transparent containment unit were 6 creatures that made several students gasp. They looked like a nightmare combination of scorpions and mantises. Each one was about the size of a human hand, with crystalline exoskeletons that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. They had multiple legs that ended in sharp points and their tails curved over their backs, tipped with stingers that dripped a glowing blue liquid. They moved fast, skittering around the container with aggressive energy. When one bumped into another, they would rear up and strike at each other with their stingers, making sharp clicking sounds. The Skorath stingers come from Skorath Prime, a Class 7 hazard world, Professor Veltis explained. The venom from their stingers is lethal to 89% of known galactic species. Death occurs within 3 to 5 minutes of a sting, preceded by full-body paralysis and extreme pain. Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Professor Veltis walked around the container, pointing at different features of the creatures. Their exoskeletons are nearly impossible to crush. They can survive in vacuum for up to 2 hours. They are highly aggressive and will attack anything that moves. They breed rapidly, which makes them an invasive species threat on any world they reach. Why do they exist? One of the small shared desk creatures asked in a squeaky voice. Evolution has no purpose, Professor Veltis replied. It simply produces what survives. On Scorath Prime, being venomous and aggressive was an advantage. These creatures are apex predators on their homeworld. She picked up a long metal tool. The venom is particularly interesting from a biochemical perspective. It attacks the nervous system of most species, but it does so in a unique way. Galactic scientists have studied it extensively. Unfortunately, 14 different civilizations have weaponized versions of this venom for biological warfare. The crystalline student raised a question. Are there any species immune to the venom? Only 3 known species have natural resistance, Professor Veltis said. The Karathi from the Delta sector, who have redundant nervous systems. The Silicoid collective, who don't have organic nervous systems at all. And the Vraxian, whose blood chemistry neutralizes most toxins. Taman was fascinated. He leaned forward, studying the creatures closely. Their movement patterns, the way their stingers moved independently, the structure of their legs, it all reminded him of something. Now, observe as I demonstrate proper containment protocol, Professor Veltis said. She put on thick protective gloves that covered her arms up to her shoulders. Then she attached a face shield. One of the staff members handed her a specialized tool that looked like a long stick with a loop at the end. Very carefully, Professor Veltis opened a small port in the container. The Scorath stingers immediately rushed toward the opening. With precise movements, she used the tool to catch one of them in the loop, pulling it out while simultaneously closing the port. The whole process took less than 3 seconds. The captured stinger thrashed wildly, its stinger striking at the loop over and over. The blue venom dripped onto a collection tray below. Note the aggressive response, Professor Veltis said calmly. Even as the creature tried desperately to free itself, they never stop attacking. Even captured, even dying, they will attempt to sting anything within reach. She placed the stinger into a secondary examination container, a smaller clear box with mechanical arms inside. Through remote controls, she manipulated the arms to hold the creature steady. From this position, we can safely study its anatomy, Professor Veltis explained. The stinger contains a venom sac here. The exoskeleton structure shows remarkable strength here. The sensory organ, Taman kept staring at the creature. The more he looked, the more familiar it seemed. The segmented body, the curved tail, the aggressive posture. And then it clicked. He raised his hand. Professor Veltis paused mid-sentence. Yes, do you have a question about the anatomy? Professor, Taman said, are those edible? The classroom went silent. Completely, totally silent. Professor Veltis's translator unit made a strange buzzing sound, as if struggling to process what it had heard. Please repeat your question. The translation may have been incorrect. Are they edible? Taman asked again. Can you eat them? They look kind of like the scorpions we eat back home on Earth. Next to him, Jiho made a sound like a dying animal and put his face in his hands. Oh no, here we go. Several things happened at once. 3 of the smaller students activated personal shield devices with a loud humming sound. The Etherians pushed their chairs back so hard they hit the wall. The crystalline being began glowing bright red, which apparently meant alarm. The liquid creature's containment suit started beeping warnings. One student, a small blue creature with large eyes, simply fainted and fell off its chair. Professor Veltis stood frozen, still holding the remote control for the examination container. Her compound eyes fixed on Taman with an intensity that made him wonder if he'd made a mistake. You, she said slowly, eat creatures like this? Voluntarily? Well, not exactly like this, Taman said, realizing he should probably explain. But we eat scorpions, yes. They're considered a delicacy in some parts of Earth. You usually fry them or grill them. They're crunchy and taste kind of nutty. Jiho groaned louder. And not just scorpions, Taman continued, warming to the topic. We also eat tarantulas in some countries. And venomous snakes. Oh, and there's this fish called fugu that has poison in it, and if the chef prepares it wrong, you die. But people eat it anyway because it tastes good. The medical team in the corner was having a rapid conversation in hushed voices. One of them was frantically typing on a datapad. Professor Veltis slowly set down the remote control. You consume venomous organisms deliberately? For pleasure? Sure, Taman said. He pulled out his personal datapad and quickly searched for images. Look, here's a street vendor in Bangkok selling fried scorpions. And here's fried tarantulas from Cambodia. This is snake soup. Oh, and these are chocolate-covered ants. He held up the datapad. Professor Veltis leaned in to look, her antennae twitching. Several brave students crept closer to see. The images showed exactly what Taman had described. Humans smiling, eating creatures that looked dangerous. Street markets full of insects on sticks. Restaurants serving snake meat. This is not possible, one of the Etherians whispered. They must be insane. We're not insane, Jiho said defensively, finally raising his head. We just have strong stomachs. And my grandmother makes this soup with blowfish that can kill you if she prepares it wrong. But she never has, and it's delicious. So there. Professor Velthus turned to her teaching assistant, who was also staring at the humans in disbelief. Initiate an emergency database search. Human dietary habits. Cross-reference with toxicity levels. The assistant scrambled to obey. Taman looked around at all the shocked faces. Did I say something wrong? The classroom erupted into chaos. The teaching assistant's datapad was beeping rapidly as search results flooded in. Professor Veltis was reading over the assistant's shoulder, her antennae twitching faster and faster. Students were talking over each other in at least 6 different languages. This cannot be real, the crystalline student said. The database must be corrupted. It's real, the teaching assistant said weakly. All sources confirm. Humans regularly consume organisms that are toxic, venomous, or otherwise dangerous. Over 2,000 documented species. 2,000? Professor Veltis repeated. She turned back to Taman and Jiho. Explain, now. Taman stood up, feeling like he should defend his species. It's not that weird. Earth has lots of different food sources, and humans learn to prepare them safely. We cook things, we remove the dangerous parts, we use special techniques. It's just normal for us. There's this plant called cassava, Jiho added. It has cyanide in it. You know, the poison? But if you process it correctly, it's safe and nutritious. Millions of people eat it every day. Cyanide? One of the small creatures squeaked. The thing that shuts down cellular respiration in most life forms? Yeah, that one. Professor Velthus was reading through more data. Capsaicin. A chemical irritant that causes pain responses. Humans consume this for enjoyment? Oh, chili peppers, Taman said enthusiastically. Those are great. The spicier, the better. There are competitions to see who can eat the hottest peppers. Competitions, Professor Veltis repeated flatly. To deliberately cause yourself pain. It's a fun pain, Taman tried to explain. Like it hurts, but in a good way. And then you feel amazing after. The liquid creature's translator spoke up. I have a question. These preparation methods you mention, do they always work? Are there no accidents? Oh, people die sometimes, Taman admitted. Not often, but it happens. Like with fugu, the poison fish. A few people die every year from it being prepared wrong, but millions of servings are eaten safely. You eat something that might kill you, the crystalline student said slowly. Knowing that it kills some people, and you do this anyway? The risk is pretty small if you go to a licensed chef, Jiho said. It's like extreme sports. Some risk, but mostly safe if you're careful. Extreme sports? Professor Veltis was typing something. Oh no. Her teaching assistant looked at the screen and made a distressed clicking sound. What is it? One of the Etherians asked. Professor Veltis turned her screen so the class could see. Humans also engage in recreational activities with high injury rates for entertainment. Jumping from aircraft with fabric parachutes, diving to extreme ocean depths, climbing sheer rock faces without proper safety equipment, something called base jumping, where they leap off buildings and mountains. That's for fun, Taman confirmed. Well, fun for people who like that stuff. I prefer less dangerous hobbies, like eating venomous creatures, Professor Veltis asked. Exactly. The professor's mandibles clicked rapidly. I need to contact the cultural liaison officer. This is beyond my expertise. 10 minutes later, Naricho rushed into the classroom looking flustered and worried. She took one look at the scene. The contained Skorath stinger, the shocked alien students, and Taman looking confused, and closed her eyes briefly. What happened? She asked. Professor Veltis explained quickly. Nari's expression went from concerned to embarrassed to defensive. Okay, yes, humans eat a lot of things that other species find disturbing, Nari said. But this is normal for us. Our planet has aggressive biology, so we evolved to handle it. We have strong stomach acid, robust immune systems, and very efficient livers that can process many toxins. Your planet is classified as Class 6 hazard, Professor Veltis said. Now I understand why. It's not dangerous if you grow up there, Nari protested. Everything is relative. You have predators that can kill you, plants that are poisonous, diseases that your own planet produces, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, Professor Veltis listed. And humans look at venomous insects and think food. When you say it like that, it sounds bad, Nari muttered. Taman raised his hand again. Professor, I have another question. Everyone turned to look at him. Nari shook her head slightly, silently begging him not to make things worse. If the Skorath stingers are biochemically similar to Earth scorpions, which they look like they are, then their venom probably works the same way. Scorpion venom on Earth is broken down by human digestive enzymes and stomach acid. So theoretically, if you cooked these properly, humans might be able to eat them safely. The silence that followed was deafening. Then 3 more students fainted. Absolutely not, Nari said immediately. No experiments, no testing. We are not eating the deadly alien creatures. But it's a valid scientific hypothesis, Taman argued. Think about it. If humans can safely consume organisms that are lethal to other species, that's valuable information. It could help with resource management or emergency survival situations or getting humans classified as a crazy death world species that everyone fears, Nari interrupted. We're trying to build good relationships here. Actually, Professor Veltis said slowly, the hypothesis is scientifically sound. Everyone stared at her. The venom of Skorath stingers attacks specific nervous system receptors, Professor Veltis continued. If human biochemistry is different enough, the venom might indeed be neutralized by digestive processes. It would explain how humans can consume Earth scorpions which have similar venom structures. You're not seriously considering this, Nari said. I'm a scientist, Professor Veltis replied. An untested hypothesis is worse than an uncomfortable truth. If humans have resistance to Skorath stinger venom, that's significant data. See? Taman said to Nari. Science. I hate both of you right now, Nari muttered. The teaching assistant spoke up nervously. Professor, if you wanted to test this, we would need medical clearance, safety protocols, monitoring equipment, and a human volunteer who is probably insane, Jiho added, looking at Taman. Which my roommate apparently is. I'm not insane, Taman protested. I'm curious. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Not in this case. Professor Veltis was already making notes. This would require approval from the Dean of Xenobiology, and the Medical Board, and probably the Ethics Committee, and the Galactic Council's Education Oversight Department. So lots of paperwork, Taman said. But it's possible? It's monumentally stupid, Nari said. But yes, technically possible. I want to do it, Taman said firmly. If it helps people understand humans better and if it contributes to science, I'll volunteer. The Etherians were having a rapid conversation in their own language. The liquid creature was bubbling in what seemed like agitation. The small creatures were huddled together, staring at Taman like he was already dead. You understand you could die, Professor Veltis said. Even if the hypothesis is correct, there are many variables. The concentration of venom, your individual biology, preparation methods. I understand, Taman said. But I grew up eating street food in Seoul and Bangkok. I've had food poisoning 6 times. I once accidentally ate a pepper so hot I couldn't feel my face for an hour. I'm still here. That's not reassuring, Nari said. But it's true, Jiho said quietly. Look, Taman is kind of crazy about trying new foods. But he's not stupid. If he thinks it's safe, he probably has good reasons. Or I'll be a cautionary tale, Taman added cheerfully. Either way, we learned something. Professor Veltis's compound eyes studied him for a long moment. I will submit the proposal, but I make no promises about approval. This is unprecedented. Everything about humans seems to be unprecedented, one of the students muttered. As the class was dismissed, students filed out quickly, casting nervous glances at the 2 humans. Taman and Jiho walked out together, with Nari following behind them. I'm going to have so much paperwork because of you, Nari said. So much. But think how interesting it'll be, Taman said. I don't want interesting. I want humans to be seen as normal, responsible members of the galactic community. Too late for that, Jiho said. We're already the weird ones. Nari sighed deeply. Yes, you are. The paperwork took 3 days to process. 3 days during which the entire academy learned about the crazy human who wanted to eat deadly alien insects. Taman couldn't walk through a corridor without being stared at. Some students avoided him completely. Others asked him if he was feeling okay mentally. Jiho spent most of those 3 days making Taman write messages to his family. Just in case I'm not going to die, Taman insisted. Probably not, Jiho agreed. But if you do, your mom will kill me for not stopping you. So write the messages. On the morning of the experiment, Nari arrived at their dorm room with a woman Taman hadn't met before. This is Dr. Yuna Han, Nari introduced. She's a xenobiologist from Earth. She specializes in human-alien biological interactions. Dr. Han was a serious woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner. She shook Taman's hand firmly. I've read your medical records, she said. Relatively healthy. No known allergies to insect proteins. History of consuming adventurous foods. You're either brave or foolish. Can't I be both? Taman asked. Apparently. Dr. Han opened her medical bag. I've analyzed the Skorath stinger venom. It's similar in structure to Earth scorpion venom, but approximately 40 times more potent. The toxin targets sodium channels in nerve cells. And in humans? Human nerve cells have slightly different sodium channel proteins than most galactic species. The toxin might not bind as effectively. Combined with human stomach acid and liver enzymes, there's a reasonable chance your body can neutralize it. Reasonable chance? Jiho asked. How reasonable? 70 to 80% based on my models. But models aren't perfect. So there's a 20 to 30% chance something bad happens. Jiho calculated. Yes. Ranging from mild discomfort to severe reaction requiring immediate medical intervention. Death is unlikely but not impossible. Taman nodded slowly. Those are better odds than I thought. You're insane, Jiho said. We established that already. The experiment was scheduled for 2 o'clock in the Academy's main medical facility. When Taman arrived with Nari, Dr. Han, and Jiho, he was surprised by how many people were there. Professor Veltis and her teaching staff were present. The Dean of Xenobiology, an elderly alien who looked like a walking tree. Medical teams from 5 different species, safety officers, and cameras. Lots of cameras. What's with all the cameras? Taman asked. The galactic scientific community wants to watch, Professor Veltis explained. This is being live-streamed to 17 research institutions across 9 systems. Everyone wants to know if humans can really do this. No pressure then, Taman muttered. The Skorath stingers had been moved to the medical facility in their containment unit. Watching them skitter around, Taman felt a flutter of nervousness. They really did look dangerous, but he'd made his choice. Let's go over the protocol, Dr. Han said. We've prepared 1 Skorath stinger using 3 different cooking methods. 1 boiled, 1 roasted, 1 fried. You'll consume a small portion of each. We'll monitor your vital signs continuously. At the first sign of distress, we'll administer antivenin. You have antivenin? Jiho asked hopefully. Not exactly. We have a broad-spectrum toxin neutralizer that might help. Emphasis on might. Still not reassuring, Jiho said. Taman was fitted with medical monitoring equipment. Sensors on his chest, arms, and head. An IV line inserted in his arm, ready to deliver emergency medication. He sat in a medical chair surrounded by screens showing his heartbeat, blood pressure, oxygen levels, and other data. How are you feeling? Nari asked. She looked more nervous than Taman felt. Hungry, actually, Taman said. I skipped lunch for this. Focus, Dr. Han said. She placed 3 small plates in front of him. Each contained a piece of cooked Skorath stinger. They'd been carefully prepared, with the most venomous parts removed, just like how Earth scorpions were prepared. The boiled piece looked pale and soft. The roasted one was darker with a crispy exterior. The fried one was golden and crunchy. Cameras focused on Taman from multiple angles. Hundreds, maybe thousands of scientists across the galaxy watched their screens. Start with the boiled one, Dr. Han instructed. Take a very small bite. Chew thoroughly. Tell us immediately if you feel anything unusual. Taman picked up the utensil. The room was completely silent except for the beeping of medical monitors. He took a small piece of the boiled Skorath stinger and put it in his mouth. The texture was similar to shrimp. The taste was mild, slightly sweet. He chewed carefully, paying attention to any sensations. His tongue felt fine. His throat felt fine. He swallowed. Everyone watched the monitors. Taemin's heartbeat stayed steady. His blood pressure didn't spike. Oxygen levels remained normal. "How do you feel?" Dr. Han asked. "Fine," Taemin said. "It tastes okay. Kind of bland, though." "Bland," Professor Veltis repeated. "The creature that kills most species in minutes tastes bland." "Well, yeah. It needs seasoning." Several scientists watching the live stream apparently fainted at this comment. Nari learned about this later. "Wait 5 minutes," Dr. Han said. "Then we'll try the roasted piece." The 5 minutes passed slowly. Taemin felt completely normal. His vitals remained stable. No paralysis, no pain, no problems. "This is remarkable," the dean of xenobiology said, examining the data. "The venom is definitely present in the tissue, but his body is processing it without difficulty." "Told you," Taemin said. The roasted piece tasted better. It had a nutty flavor and a crispy texture. Taemin ate the entire portion and reported no issues. "Okay, this one actually tastes good," he said. "Like lobster, but spicier." "Spicier?" Professor Veltis asked. "There's a slight burning sensation on my tongue." "Not bad, though. Pleasant, actually." "That's the residual venom," Dr. Han said, checking her readings. "Your pain receptors are detecting it, but it's not causing damage. Your body is neutralizing it as fast as it's absorbed." The fried piece was Taemin's favorite. It was crunchy and flavorful, with a taste somewhere between crab and chicken. "We should sell these at the dining hall," Taemin said. "Seriously, this is good. You want to commercialize them?" Nari asked weakly. "Why not? If they're safe for humans, they could be a new food source." Professor Veltis was taking rapid notes. Other scientists were analyzing the data streaming from Taemin's monitors. The results were clear. Humans could indeed consume Skorath stingers safely. "I have a question," one of the medical staff said. "If humans can eat these, what else can they eat that we thought was inedible?" Everyone turned to look at Taemin. "I don't know," he said. "Want me to test other things?" "No," Nari said immediately. "Actually," Professor Veltis said, "that's an excellent research question." "No," Nari repeated more firmly. "Think about the implications," the dean said. "Resources we considered too dangerous to harvest might be accessible through human labor. Emergency food supplies on hostile worlds, scientific specimens we couldn't safely study. You're talking about using humans as, what, toxic food testers?" Jiho asked. "I prefer specialized resource consultants," and the dean said. "I'd do it," Taemin said. "This is fascinating. How many supposedly deadly things are only deadly to some species? What if there are whole categories of resources we've overlooked?" Dr. Han was nodding slowly. "It would require extensive testing and safety protocols. But the potential applications are significant." "I hate that you're all making sense," Nari said. "I really hate it." Taemin underwent observation for 6 more hours. His body processed the Skorath stinger venom completely with no lasting effects. By the evening, he was cleared as healthy and released. The news spread fast. Within hours, every major news outlet in the galactic community was running the story. "Human survives Class 7 hazard organism consumption." Taemin's face was everywhere. His academy inbox filled with thousands of messages. Research institutions across the galaxy requested his participation in studies. Some messages called him brave. Some called him insane. A few called him delicious-looking, which worried him until Jiho explained it was just a mistranslation. That evening, back in their dorm room, Jiho asked, "Do you realize what you've done? Eaten some crunchy alien bugs? You've changed how the galaxy sees humans. We're not just another species anymore. We're the ones who eat deadly things for fun." Taemin thought about it. "Is that bad?" "I don't know yet. Ask me in a few months," Taemin's datapad chimed. A message from Professor Veltis. "Meeting tomorrow 9 a.m. We have 18 research proposals to discuss." "Congratulations on not dying," he smiled. This was going to be interesting. 6 months passed and the Galactic Academy was a very different place. The dining hall now had a new section called Human Experimental Cuisine. It came with warning, signs in 17 languages, and required customers to sign liability waivers. But it was always busy. Aliens from across the galaxy came specifically to try Death World food, though most of them just watched humans eat it while they themselves chose safer options. Jiho's business plan had actually worked. He'd partnered with the Academy's food services to create a restaurant that served Earth foods and human-safe alien organisms. The profit margins were incredible because nobody else wanted to handle the ingredients. Who knew deadly creatures were such good business? Jiho said, reviewing the quarterly earnings. Taemin had become something of a celebrity. He couldn't walk through the station without being recognized. Some students asked for autographs. Others still avoided him nervously. But the staring had changed from fearful to curious. Professor Velthus's xenobiology class was now the most popular elective at the Academy. The waiting list was 3 semesters long. Everyone wanted to see humans interact with dangerous organisms. Taemin had been hired as a teaching assistant, which meant he got paid to do what he loved, learn about alien biology and occasionally taste test things. Dr. Han supervised all testing, of course. Safety protocols were strict, but over the past months, they discovered that humans could safely consume 17 different organisms that were lethal to most other species. "You're building a whole new field of study," Dr. Han told him. "Death world biology, how species from hazardous worlds interact with organisms that evolved in less hostile environments." More human students had arrived at the Academy. Salman Lee was studying chemistry and had discovered she could handle caustic substances that burned other species. Hyun Kang was in the engineering program and kept designing equipment that other species considered too dangerous to operate. Nari had stopped being embarrassed about humans. Instead, she'd become their biggest advocate. "Humans bring unique advantages," she told the Galactic Council's Education Committee during a review meeting. "Yes, we're unusual. Yes, we eat things that horrify other species, but we're also opening up new possibilities for research, resource utilization, and interspecies cooperation." The Council had agreed. They'd created a new classification system, Death World Resilient Species. Humans were the first and so far only species in this category. It came with special privileges. Humans could access restricted zones that were too dangerous for other species. They could handle hazardous materials. They were being recruited for jobs nobody else wanted, exploring hostile worlds, managing dangerous biological samples, testing equipment in extreme conditions. "We're basically the galaxy's janitors for dangerous stuff," Jiho observed. "We're specialists," Taemin corrected, "and we're paid well for it." On a morning in early spring by Earth calendar, Taemin entered Professor Velthus's classroom for the regular weekly demonstration. The room was full, not just the enrolled students but also observers from other classes and visiting researchers. Professor Velthus stood at her usual spot, with a new containment unit on her desk. "Good morning," she said. "Today we have something special, a specimen from the Vorkath ice caves, extremely venomous, highly aggressive, and completely unstudied because no research team could safely handle them." She removed the cloth, revealing a creature that looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a spider, colored in swirling patterns of blue and white. The non-human, students made appropriately impressed and nervous. "Sounds," Taemin raised his hand, along with 4 other human students who were now in the class. Professor Velthus sighed. "Let me guess. You want to know if it's edible?" "Well," Taemin said, "does anyone know if it is? No one has been insane enough to try." "Yet," Taemin added with a grin. Professor Velthus's mandibles clicked in what Taemin had learned to recognize as amusement. "I prepared a preliminary analysis based on similar Earth organisms." She pulled up a data file and distributed it to the human students. "The venom is protein-based, which means cooking at high temperatures should denature it. The tissue structure suggests it would have a texture similar to squid. The biochemistry indicates it should be safe for human consumption after proper preparation." "You're encouraging this now?" one of the Etherian students asked in disbelief. "I'm a scientist," Professor Velthus replied. "The data supports the hypothesis, and the Academy benefits from understanding which organisms humans can safely interact with. We've already saved significant resources by using human specialists for handling procedures." Salman raised her hand. "Professor, if you cook this, I'll volunteer to try it." "Me too," said Hyun. "Obviously I'm in," Taemin added. Jiho, who was sitting in on the class to take notes for his restaurant business, just shook his head and smiled. "I'll handle the marketing." Professor Velthus looked at the eager human faces, then at her teaching assistant, then at the cameras that now recorded every class session for research purposes. "Very well," she said. We'll run the standard safety protocol Dr. Han will supervise. And yes, Jiho, you can add it to your menu if the testing succeeds. The alien students had stopped being surprised by this kind of thing. They just accepted that humans were weird and moved on. After class, Taman was walking to the library when he encountered a group of first-year students taking a tour. Their guide was pointing out various facilities. And this is one of our human students, the guide said, gesturing to Taman. Humans are a death world species, known for their ability to consume toxic organisms and survive in hostile environments. The young students stared at Taman. With wide eyes, are you really going to eat that thing from class? One of them asked in a squeaky voice. Probably, Taman said, after proper safety testing. Aren't you scared? Taman thought about it. Not really. I'm careful. I follow protocols and I trust the science. Plus, trying new things is interesting. How else do you learn? The students whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. As Taman continued to the library, he passed by a wall display showing recent academy achievements. His photo was there along with other human students. The caption read, "Expanding the Frontiers of Xenobiology." He smiled. Who would have thought that a simple question about eating bugs would lead to all this? His datapad chimed. A message from Dr. Han. New organism arrived from the Khazar system. Locals say it's absolutely lethal. Want first analysis? Taman typed back, on my way. That evening, Taman met Nari for their regular check-in. She'd continued these meetings even though they were no longer about damage control. Now they were more like friendly updates. How are things? She asked. Good. We're testing a new organism tomorrow. Jiho's restaurant is expanding. I got invited to speak at a xenobiology conference next month. The one on Europa Station? That's the one. They want me to talk about human dietary adaptations. Nari smiled. You know, when you first arrived, I was terrified you'd make humans look bad. And now? Now I think you made us look interesting, different, valuable. She paused. Still crazy, but valuable. I'll take it. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out the viewing window at the stars. Do you ever regret it? Nari asked. That first question? Everything that came after? Taman thought about it seriously. The testing, the attention, the pressure, the responsibility, but also the discoveries, the friendships, the opportunities to learn and grow and help others understand his species better. No, he said finally. No regrets. I just asked a simple question. The galaxy answered in ways I never expected. That's very philosophical. I'm a philosopher who eats dangerous bugs. It's my brand now. Nari laughed. Yes, it is. The next morning, Professor Veltis's class began with yet another containment unit on the desk. This time it held something that looked like a plant, but moved like an animal, with tendrils that sparked with what looked like electricity. Before Professor Veltis could even start her lecture, 5 human hands shot up into the air. I know what you're going to ask, Professor Veltis said tiredly. Has anyone tried cooking it? The humans asked in unison. The alien students groaned. The human students grinned. Professor Veltis clicked her mandibles in resignation and pulled out her prepared analysis notes. Let me tell you why this particular organism is different from anything you've tried before, she began. But Taman was already taking notes, already thinking about preparation methods, already curious about the taste and texture and possibilities. This was his life now. This was what he'd chosen when he raised his hand and asked that first simple question, and he wouldn't change it for anything. From the observation deck above the classroom, Nari watched the scene and typed her monthly report to Earth's diplomatic service, Human Integration at Galactic Academy. Excellent. Humans have established unique niche in xenobiology research and hazardous organism management. Reputation status changed from concerning newcomers to valuable specialists. Current mood, accepting that humans will continue to eat things that terrify everyone else, and that's apparently fine now. Recommend increasing human enrollment in scientific programs. Our crazy is their resource. She hit send, smiled, and went to make a reservation at Jiho's restaurant. She'd heard they were serving something new this week, something deadly probably,